Hello, it's me, Ethan, and if you didn't know what I looked like ambiguously between the years of 1994 and 2016, I used to look like this. And now I look like not that. Suffice to say, I've gone on a bit of a fitness journey during my young adult life, and I wanted to make a quick video talking about this. Not as somebody who's, in any capacity, an expert in fitness, or gymming, or physical development. I am not an expert in any of these things, nor should you assume anybody on the other end of a phone screen is. But I wanted to speak about this particular journey from the perspective of somebody who's just a normal guy. Relatively normal anyway. I'm not here to give you a 30-day diet plan or shill products from brands who have taglines like, "Life's too short to be small." I just wanted to have an honest conversation about my own personal fitness journey because maybe someone might find that insightful, or inspiring, or worst case scenario, it would be able to fill 20 minutes of somebody's time on the youtube.com. Let me take you back in time. It's the 2000s. The Wii is in the height of its popularity. The original Avril Lavigne is still out there, alive and well. Obama was still in the picture. I'm not American, so I'm not entirely sure what he was doing, but I knew that he was there. During this time, I was a cool teenager. The type of kid who 80s television programs would classify as a radical teen. As this cool teen, I weighed somewhere in the ballpark of around about 100 kilograms, which, for you out there who use the inferior unit of weight measurement, is about 14.5 stone. Growing up, suffice to say, I was something of a sedimentary child. I liked playing video games, I liked drawing pictures, I liked watching episodes of the anime Bleach in 3 to 8 minute chunks with weird borders that were sometimes mirrored or sped up as to avoid copyright detection on youtube.com. I was not physically active. I was not healthy. It is entirely possible for these two concepts to be completely removed from each other, but in my case, they were intrinsically linked. I literally had a reputation at my local milk bar for being the kid who would buy a full packet of Natural Confectionery Company party mix and eat it on a daily basis. I was a known quantity. One time I didn't stop in to buy one, and the people who worked there genuinely wanted to check in on my health because they thought I had died. That was kind of a sign for me. As I got closer to adulthood, I knew that I wanted to be healthier. Now, losing weight doesn't necessarily have to be a step in that goal of being healthier, but for me personally, given my family history and, let's face it, previous life habits, for me it was a pretty important step. I can be honest and say that it was something that would have benefited me personally. I think the real turning point for me was when I first played Wii Fit, and that little balance board piece of shit literally classified me as almost obese. Yeah, that really took a hit to my self-esteem. Also, I tried to make my me look like myself, because it's a me, and that's what you do, and then when I tried to import the character into Mario Kart 8, it automatically assigned me to the heavy weight class. It did not do well for my self-esteem as a 12 to 13-year-old boy to be put into the same weight class as Wario, Donkey Kong, and for some reason, Rosalina. I have a lot of Wii-related trauma, it seems. I think I'm still deaf from Super Smash Bros. Brawl. So naturally, I started to do some research as to what the process of getting healthier would look like. Like, how do you start losing weight? Like, how do you go to the gym for the first time? Which is where I ended up getting a lot of very specific kinds of content. You can probably imagine like the most jacked man you've ever seen in your entire life, wearing a backwards baseball cap with hair that's like shaved right down to his skull, looking at the camera and directly screaming at you specifically, like, "If you don't lift out your Mega Max Ultra gains, then you're a beta cuck! And women won't like you." I'm so sad. Now, did this kind of content inspire me to get up and go to the gym and start doing fitness stuff? Yes. Did it also take a drastic impact on my self-esteem and body image? Yeah. So with that in mind, let me move on to the first and most important question that people tend to ask me when we talk about fitness. How do you get started? I had very little strength, endurance, agility, also perception, charisma, intelligence, and luck, now that I think about it. And let's be real, people who are above average in weight can be very physically fit, competent, and capable. But I wasn't, and that was entirely my fault. Getting started with physical fitness was a very difficult thing for me to do. I tried riding a bike, hated that. I tried running, that shit sucked. My family home had a small weight set, and in lieu of being actually physically able to lift them up, I kind of just rolled them back and forth on the floor for a little bit. That didn't help, and it also did irreparable damage to the floorboards. Whoops. Exercising, working out, increasing my heart rate, all that stuff was hard, and I hated it. So instead, I tried to focus on what I could do. Growing up, I had to rely a lot on public transportation. Getting to school every day required a 30-minute train ride and a 10-minute bus ride after that. But if I was to take the trip from my high school to the train station on foot instead, it would take 30 minutes. And also, it was completely downhill, which was super convenient for me. This isn't even a joke or anything, but like my high school was like a fancy private school that was literally built on top of a mountain that physically and geographically looked down upon the public school in the same district. This reminds me that I've never experienced adversity in my entire life. So for me and my regular level of baseline fitness, walking was a lot easier than running, which I know sounds obvious when you say it out loud, but it was also very difficult for me to walk just for the sake of walking. Like, I'm a teenage boy living at home, like every moment that I'm not doing homework is filled playing League of Legends. There is no second thing. That being said, by factoring these walks as part of a routine and getting me from a place that I need to leave to a place that I need to go, i.e., school and home, I was no longer walking just for the sake of walking. I was getting something done. And so, suddenly, the idea of doing this physical exercise became a lot more feasible in my mind. It also meant that I would completely skip having to ride a train home with a busload of private school teenagers, who, as I'm sure you can imagine, are just the worst. Did this walk take longer than a bus trip? Of course, undoubtedly. But did it also get me on my feet and get me burning calories? Slowly, but surely. Maybe I could have burned more calories if I was going for a run or doing a full gym session, but I hated that. I wasn't good at it. See, even if I couldn't commit to jogging for an hour or doing 20 more billion push-ups on the hockey field, because of course we had a hockey field, instead I started small. Instead of investing explosive energy, I instead invested my time. Time, which, let's face it, I was probably just going to spend playing video games anyway. Oh no, I'm only able to play 2 games of Counter-Strike Global Offensive instead of 3. What a tragedy that would be for my developing frontal lobe. Even though it didn't feel like much, by starting small, I was able to build up my physical baseline over a period of months. Even if I wasn't raising my heart rate to 175 BPM or whatever the number's supposed to be, I should probably look into that. And even if I wasn't mega-maxing my gains, or whatever the hell the term is, I was still doing something. It just took me more time than effort. Eventually, I built up the courage to start finally going to the gym. By which I mean that the vice principal of my high school figured out that me and a couple of my other buddies were skipping out on interschool sport. So here's a hack that we all learned, right? If you don't show up on the first day of interschool sport, none of the sport teachers put your name down on any of the teams. For 3 hours on a Tuesday, you don't exist. So anyway, I pitched the idea to my vice principal where instead of signing up for the interschool sport team that you sign up for when you don't want to play interschool sport, table tennis, I instead pitched him the idea of going out and doing solo physical activities instead. I shit you not, I played interschool table tennis for like 2 years in high school, and I don't think I played a single game. I would literally sit on a bus for 30 minutes each way to drive to a rec center and not play table tennis. I literally spent my entire time there looking over my friend's shoulder, watching him play whatever PSP Mortal Kombat had Kratos as an unlockable combatant. Originally, the vice principal was kind of against this idea because it was like, oh, inter-school sport is important for boys to learn teamwork and communication. Like, I hate to break it to you, man, that ain't happening. I tried playing basketball for inter-school sport once, and everyone hated me. One time I walked up to a bunch of the boys on the basketball team as they were mid-conversation saying something like, I don't even know why Ethan's here, like he's fucking shit at this, he should just get out. One of the boys clearly saw me coming because he very panically said, really? I heard he was alright. To which I replied, why are you lying? He's objectively correct. And so, my gym era had officially begun. I tried to go twice a week and schedule it into a regular routine, and again, it sucked ass. Sure, I'd built up a bit of endurance on my downhill hikes, and maybe I was a little bit more physically capable than I was 3 months ago. But raising my heart rate was still an awful, horrible prospect that I never wanted to do under any circumstances. Arguably, that's still the case. But, at the very least, I hated it less. And that was progress. progress that I wanted to maintain. So I started heading out to the gym, I started using the treadmills, the cross trainers, all the other equipment that they have 20 billion of in Planet Fitness for some reason. But I really had to push myself to get out there, and there were some days where I just didn't want to go. And on those days, I didn't. Which was a problem. I realized that I couldn't just wait for inspiration to strike. Losing weight or trying to improve your fitness is one of the hardest things a human being can do. It's hard, it's sweaty, you get no immediate benefit from it, and so of course, you're not gonna jump at the chance to do it. So I did what any rational person would do in this situation. I got really into the hit drama television series Breaking Bad. Wow, wow, wow. I don't want to be demonetized by using the actual theme, so yeah, I like the sounds that they make. I don't know what they are, but you see, I had discovered that these treadmills that they had at the gym had these little USB slots where you could stick a USB in and watch shows that you'd brought from home. I think they were more used for phone charging, but it worked either way. So, what I would do is legally purchase episodes of Breaking Bad on iTunes, put them on a USB stick, legally, and then I would plug that bad boy into a treadmill and watch the show the way Vince Gilligan intended, on a tiny 360 by 480 screen with the worst color depth known to man. And so I told myself, I made it a rule, if I wanted to watch an episode of the show, I had to do it at the gym. Even on the days where I just really didn't want to go, I would still go and just half-ass the workout, which is always better than no assing the workout. Soon, I was going twice a week like clockwork, and then 3 times, and then 4 times. I was hooked, baby! This also had a pretty unique side effect. When the show started getting intense or exciting, which, if you've seen the show, you know it did, I would start to speed up on the treadmill. My adrenaline started pumping. Ooh, how's Walt and Jesse gonna get out of this one? Save them, Saul Goodman! But again, the most important thing that this did was kept me coming back. It kept me exercising, it kept me coming through the door, and it kept my momentum going. And throughout this process, I didn't really see results, but that was because the results that were happening were borderline invisible, until they weren't. You see, this is one of the hardest things about fitness. You get no immediate benefit to doing it. It's hard, it's sweaty, it sucks. You don't get any serotonin or dopamine or melatonin or other brain words. There is no immediate gratification to working out. But that also means you can't see the things that are slowly starting to happen the more you keep doing it. I started getting less winded when I went out for long walks. I started sleeping better. My relationship with food changed as well, because after all, if I was spending all this time in the gym, then why would I immediately undo that with an entire bag of Natural Confectionery Company party mix? Like, that just doesn't make sense. And then, after months of effort and dedication, I started to see physical change. The one thing that I always try to tell people about losing weight or starting a fitness journey is that you won't see anything for a long time. But when you do, it hits you like a f***ing truck. As soon as I saw physical, visible, tangible evidence that I had lost weight, immediate motivation. Because for the first time, I saw that my efforts were actually having an impact on my body, on my health, on my physicality. And I wouldn't have even had the chance to have that impact if I didn't go through the slow slog beforehand. All that walking, all that time that I could have spent playing video games, all of those little choices that I made to just make myself a tiny bit more active day to day, it all came to a head in this one moment. And that was a moment that I wanted to hold on to forever. And this is why, in my mind, finding that thing that really motivates you to just do the thing, to just do some manner of physical exercise, finding that thing is so important when you're just starting out on a fitness journey. I finished the entirety of Breaking Bad on those treadmills, and then I started moving into other shows, like CW's The Flash, which is a very ironic program to watch on a treadmill, mind you. Great for inspiration, mind you. Like, that boy can run. I also started bringing my Nintendo Switch to the gym and started playing Mortal Kombat 11 with 2 detached Joy-Cons in either hand. I brought in like a tablet with an e-reader app that transcribed ebooks into audiobooks. I started listening to D&D podcasts. I basically used the gym as a place where I would consume media and be physically active while doing so. I am the only person in living human history to listen to the grand finale of the Adventure Zone sprinting at 6 miles an hour. And again, the most important thing that did for me was get me through the door. It kept me coming back, and it kept me doing the thing. It is my firm and fundamental belief that finding the thing that motivates you to achieve a personal or fitness goal, like 90% of the time, that thing is so crucial. It is my firm and fundamental belief that finding the thing that motivates you to get out and just do the thing you want to do is the key to achieving 90% of personal or fitness goals. Sure, like you can say that things will be really hard when you first start trying stuff, but like just saying like, it'll be right, champ, like you'll get them eventually, 90% of the time that is extremely unhelpful. Human brains are surprisingly straightforward. We don't like doing things that we don't like doing, especially when that thing makes us sweat, breathe heavy, and raise our body temperature to uncomfortable degrees. Most of the time. For some people, it can feel impossible to get started in personal fitness or just any personal journey at all. The key thing that I feel you really need to do is find those small first steps, the ones that seem insignificant while you're doing them, but slowly, surely, over time and dedication, can really help snowball into something greater. Those small steps will become big steps, and then bigger steps, and then bigger steps after that, and suddenly you're in a full-blown sprint, baby. And look, finding what those steps are, that's going to be completely different from person to person, right? Maybe it's a matter of giving yourself a little reward for doing the hard thing and tying that serotonin boost to the actions that you want to do. Maybe you find satisfaction in setting out a meticulous 12-part plan full of all the little details of things you need to accomplish and then ticking off those boxes one by one. Maybe you like to set an ultimate goal, something looming high over you that you can strive for, and maybe that's enough to keep you going. Everyone's motivation is going to be different, and especially when we're talking through the lens of fitness, everybody's body is different, which means what might work for everyone else may not work for you. I don't have things like hormone conditions, physiological things, or like neurodivergence that makes fitness harder for me. And even then, going on this fitness journey was still one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. If you're somebody who hasn't given it a crack in the past, it can get so difficult to get into, and it can be even harder to keep cracking at it down the line. The cracking is the hardest bit, for lack of a better term. But I can promise you, really and truly, fitness is a journey that only gets easier. And then it gets harder. And then it gets a little easier after that. And then it gets harder again, and then a little easier, and then way harder than that, and then slightly easier later, but like, the line graph goes down is the important thing. And that's another thing that really tends to throw a spanner in the works. Like, fitness goals can be undone. You can put weight back on that you've lost. You can lose muscle that you've gained. Like, it's a sliding scale. And I feel like it's so important to recognize that as a part of the whole cohesive journey that you want to go on. Like, that's normal. That's natural. Like, I think in total, the most amount of weight that I've ever lost is like 25 kilos. And then I gained a bunch of that back. And then I lost a bunch of it again. And then I started gaining muscle, which really sort of threw out the idea of using body weight as a metric for success. Like, it kind of screwed all that up. But any case, it's so important to recognize fitness as a continuous thing, right? It is a goal to strive for, but once you hit that goal, maintaining it is just as much work. But it's still so satisfying to do. But it's also totally normal to reflect on the fact that you do go back and forward. You do go up and down. You'll hit your goal one day and you might lose your progress from that goal, but that doesn't mean you've lost. It's all just part of the journey. And so the number one thing that I always recommend to people, anytime they ask me, like, how can they get started on a fitness journey? How can they get started on increasing their physicality, going to the gym, being a little bit more healthier? The number one thing I tell them is to just keep going. There is no such thing as wasted effort. Anytime you spend trying to embed yourself, trying to make yourself more physically active, trying to lose a little bit of weight, every moment that you put towards achieving these goals, none of it is wasted. You might go back and forth a little bit here and there, but all of that time and effort you put in is part of the journey. And it's so important to recognize that. But people also tend to ask me for very quick, like, dot point tips that are actually, like, actionable rather than esoteric motivation, so here's a couple of those too. 1. You do not need to worry about supplements or any of that shit on day 1. You do not need $70 worth of pre-workout on your first day. Just have a coffee or an energy drink or something. Also, piggybacking off of that, don't just take something because it's a supplement. At the very least, Google what creatine is and what it does to your body, and whether or not it's something that you would want. Also, protein powder doesn't just automatically give you muscles. This is definitely not a fact that I'm saying from personal experience. Number 2, if you're worried about someone being judgmental at the gym, just don't be. I have been going to gyms for the vast majority of my adult life, and the only times that I have verbally spoken to anybody at any of these institutions is to say the phrase, "Hi, I would like a membership please," and to also say the phrase, "Hi, I would like to cancel my membership. I am moving away and will not be able to use the facilities anymore." Half of these places now just give you tags that you could like buzz in and just use the places. Like, you don't have to talk to anyone. It's a very isolating experience, actually. And of course, there will be exceptions, like some people will be weird or jackasses or whatever, but like 99% of people who go to the gym are just there to stay in their own lane, you know? Worst case scenario, like 95% of the time, the only time someone will like actually go up and try to talk to you at a gym is to say, "Hey, are you done with that machine? I want to use it." And for some reason, anytime somebody comes up and asks me that specifically, I always assume that they're about to yell at me for something. So like, I get the anxiety, but also like, it's fine, you know? Number 3, you don't have to go to a gym. Like, I talk a lot about gym stuff because it's a place that I like to go. It is an environment that I like to be in. It is a thing that works for me. But if you want to do more physical exercise, just go outside. Go find a walking track, walk around your hometown. Anytime you're up on your feet burning calories, like, that adds up. You literally do not need a fancy gym pass or a workout equipment or anything like that. As long as you have access to a footpath, you can exercise. Best of all, it's free. Starting a fitness journey doesn't have to be a big deal. It doesn't have to be scary. All it has to be is something you want to start. And if it isn't something you want, that's also totally fine. Working out or being fit is always something you should want to do, rather than something you feel compelled into doing. Like, you don't have to lose weight to be fit. You don't have to be fit to be physically competent or capable or attractive. It is, at the end of the day, totally up to you as to what you want to do. It is totally up to you at the end of the day. I just know that for those people who do want to go on a fitness journey or do want to start these kinds of things, it's so hard, man. But if it's something that you do want and it is something that you want to work towards, it can be so rewarding. All this journey needs to be is something that you start. Because once you start, you can keep going. It'll suck, it'll be hard, but it's possible. And that's true no matter who you are. Yeah.